What up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Heart of a Lion podcast. I'm your host, Jay, and you have just stepped into the Lion's Den. If this is your first time tuning in, then go ahead and hit that follow or the subscribe button from wherever you're listening to the podcast, as well as follow me on Instagram at HoAL Podcast. Again, that's at HoAL Podcast, as well as you can follow the page on Instagram at the Heart of a Lion Podcast. If you're a returning listener, then thank you for coming back for some more. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the support. It is always appreciated. Now, for me personally, right, there are several things that I hear people say where it seems to be the societal, how do you say, the society norm. I feel like I'm still saying it wrong, but the norm in society, right? When people say something and then you have a bunch of people who will come out and, somebody will make a post on social media and then you have a bunch of people who will share it, like it and comment and say, oh, I agree, this is life. I so feel this, or, sometimes it's like not even necessarily negative stuff, but people use it as a norm. I just see it differently, right? I just see it differently. So I'm going to talk about a few things that are considered norm by society, or at least by a group. When I say a group, I don't necessarily mean like a specific like cultural group or anything like that. But like, you will have a large group of people who agree with this one thing. And this is just me saying, I see it differently. Example, right? So you will have people who will talk about how, friends and family, they don't support your businesses, or, those are the ones who are your biggest haters, or they're the ones who don't support you for whatever reason. Like you have people who are really big on that, talking about how you can't get support from your own friends or family. How it's strangers who will support you before friends or family. And to some degree, I get it. And I don't even think that that's wrong per se. I mean, what they say, Jesus wasn't even welcome in his own home. So I get that. But at the same time, if we're being honest, if we're being realistic, for small business owners, sometimes when we starting out, the quality of the work that we're putting out isn't great work. And sometimes it's not even good. So how can I expect a friend or a family member to support that? Sometimes our prices are just outside of their price range and they just can't afford it. So it's like, I have to understand that too. Sometimes it could be that they think our work is good, but based on our price, they're like, that's good, but I don't want to spend that much money for something I think is good, when I would rather spend more money for the same money for something I think is great, if that makes sense. So sometimes, our prices are just outside of what they can afford, or sometimes it's just not what they're into. I can't be mad at somebody who, because I do photography and videography, I can't be mad at somebody who doesn't want to, support me by getting pictures taken if they don't like to take pictures. I can't be upset with somebody who doesn't want to come to me to get pictures taken if they say that I'm outside of their price range, right? I can't be upset at people for different reasons. There are other ways they can support. They can share my content on social media. They can tag me in different things, which I do get. I get a lot of people who will share my content, or people who will, tag me and say, use me as a photographer, use me as a videographer, which I think is dope. But at the end of the day, like, I can't get upset at somebody who quote unquote doesn't support me by paying for a photo shoot, or by paying for whatever. Again, life is life, and I completely understand it. Even for me, like, I don't always support all the things that my friends do, and sometimes it's, it would be because it's outside of my price range, or I like it, but whatever it is, like, I'm just not into. So like, I'll support them with the encouragement. I'll support them with sharing whatever the content is, but I hate the notion that we should be forced to support something just because we're related to somebody or just because we're friends with somebody. And I'm not saying that you should never support them, but we shouldn't get so caught up in disappointment because people who we're connected to don't disappoint us. Like, just keep pushing, keep going, get the word out there. And over time, people will support you. You can't get mad at somebody who, like, if you're a clothing store and you sell all girls clothes, you can't get mad at somebody who doesn't buy your girls clothes if that person only has boys. Like, it's just simple things like that. I see it differently. What else? Okay, this one might be a little bit controversial, but this is just how I see it. Please don't cancel me on this one. But heavenly birthdays, right? Now, I don't think it's anything wrong with people saying happy heavenly birthday. I think it's amazing that people acknowledge those who have transitioned. Again, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. For me personally, I see heavenly birthdays. I see heavenly birthdays as the day that the person passed and not the day that they were actually born, right? Because the day that you die on earth, technically, that's the day that you transition into heaven, right? So if that's the day that you transition into heaven, I feel like that would be the heavenly birthday. That's the day that they then graduated from this life and gone on to the next, right? Whereas the day that they were born on earth would be their earthly birthday. So, example, if somebody lived to be 90, I'm not going to be like, oh man, happy heavenly birthday. Today would be their 120th birthday. They were 90, but I would say, but their heavenly birthday to me would be the day that they died. Now, again, this is me not saying that anybody is wrong for what they believe. This is not me saying that anybody shouldn't be saying that or shouldn't be doing that. I'm just saying I see it differently. That is all. What else? The mindset that if I'm if I'm friends or if I'm family with somebody, right? And now because I'm friends or I'm family with them and that person now has a beef, an issue with somebody who I am cool with, who I like, who I may even love, that I should cut that person off and have nothing to do with them. That just because they got a beef, that means that I got to have a beef. And I used to subscribe to this. If my friends would beef with somebody, oh, you better believe I got that beef too. If it was a girl I liked and she didn't, care for somebody, listen, that beef was mine too. Or if it was a family member who wasn't cool with somebody, I'm not cool with that person either. However, what I've learned is that the person who had the beef or who had the issue sometimes resolves that issue or cooks that beef and things are all good. Like I can think of one person specifically where we were friends and they had an issue with somebody, and because they had an issue, I had an issue, right? And that was the understanding that I had to have this issue. But again, it was just like, nah, I got an issue with this person too. I unfriended this person on Facebook and everything. Years later, after I'm no longer in a friendship with this individual, I realized that the person that I cut off for this friend and the friend were now friends and communicating on Facebook. And I'm just like, huh? What? Or you have friends who date these girls and, they have, or guys, and they have these issues, and because they have issues, like you gotta have an issue too and whatever, And, they talk to you about the issue. So now it's like, yeah, I got a problem with whatever they did, or I got a problem with this person because of the issue. And then you come to find out that they make up and they're back together again. It's like, well, what? Like the way you were talking before, I thought y'all would be done and never see each other again. So it's things like that just make me feel like, yo, if you got an issue, you need, like, I don't mind hearing people out. I don't mind people getting stuff off their chest. I don't mind them telling me about whatever's going on. But now I refuse to cut somebody off just because you got an issue. Now, if a person is being completely disrespectful towards a family member, like, that's different, right? Because you can't disrespect my wife or disrespect my kids or disrespect a sibling and then me be okay with that. Like, that's just a no-go. But if it's, oh yeah, I don't care for this person because of what they said, da 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 da, like, I'm gonna hear you out. But if I'm cool with the person, like, I'm also not cutting them off just because you got an issue. Because I think, for me, honestly, I think that's childish, and I'm too old for that mindset. I'm too old for that childishness. Like, we're all adults, and because we're all adults, we're human. Like, we make mistakes. You could have caught a person on a bad day, or sometimes the person complaining about the issue may have been the one that caused the actual issues to begin with. So it's like, I can't go to war with somebody who always has an issue with somebody. I can't go to war with a friend who always has an issue with the person and then makes their issue my issue. If anything, you need to take that issue to God and leave me out of it, or take the issue to God. And I don't mind praying with you. I do not mind praying with you. I don't mind praying for you. But again, your issue is not my issue if it involves taking issue with other people. I can't, and I won't. Okay. Now, this is something that I see it on Facebook a lot, honestly. More so than anywhere else. I see it on Facebook a lot. And it's twofold. It's the if you don't love me while I'm here, then don't miss me while I'm gone. But also, people getting upset if somebody says rest in peace to somebody that you haven't spoken to in a long time. Rest in peace to somebody that you haven't spoken to recently. And for the life of me, I don't understand why it bothers people so much when people do that. Or the mindset that people say, oh, if you don't miss me while I'm here, then if you don't love me while I'm here, then don't miss me while I'm gone, or don't show up to my funeral, or different things like that. Like, listen, I understand as an adult that because we are adults, and the older we get, the more responsibilities we have. You get married, that's an extra responsibility. I have to not just care for me, but I have to care for my wife as well. When you add kids into the mix, I can't just care for my wife and my kids. I mean, from myself and my wife, I also have to care for my kids too. I have a job that I have to think about. For me, like, I go to church, so I have church, I have family, I have friends that I care about, but sometimes that means that I don't get a chance to talk to all my family as often as I would like. I don't get a chance to talk to all my friends as often as I would like. Does that mean that I don't care about them? Absolutely not. It really doesn't. But, it doesn't mean, just because they don't hear from me doesn't mean that I love them any less. In fact, the phone goes both ways. So if you don't hear from me, why can't, if a person doesn't hear from me, why can't they also reach out to me, right? But with that being said, you don't know how death affects a person. You cannot talk to somebody in years. But you hear that they passed away and it trigger you like you just saw them, earlier today. Or it could trigger you like you just saw them yesterday. You could have had an issue with the person. You could have had an issue with the person, and then that person passed away, and then you just start bawling. I can't tell you how many testimonies of people I heard who hadn't talked to a relative and was so angry with the relative, but then the relative passed away, and then they were filled with so much regret and so much, pain and so much whatever. So again, the notion is like to say that somebody can't say rest in peace, or somebody can't be upset, or somebody can't be in their feelings just because somebody passed away and they hadn't talked to them in a long time. To me, just it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. People express things differently. No, there is nobody I know who talks to everybody in their phone every single day, or even weekly, or even monthly. There are people who I talk to often. There are people who I try to catch up with as often as I can. And there are people I haven't talked to in years. And part of it is because, most of it is because I'm always busy. I still try to reach out to people from time to time. But it's also like I keep up with people more often than I'm able to. And in some regards, I can only keep up with who keeps up with me, if that makes sense. I really do try hard to, reach out to people and check on people and different things like that. But at the same time, if because I'm so busy, I don't get a chance to reach out, that's a good opportunity for somebody to reach out to me. But if they don't reach out to me, then I'm less likely to hear from them, or I'm less likely to have a conversation with them. So again, the notion that, you can't miss somebody just because you haven't talked to them in a long time doesn't make sense to me. It's the same way, like people, when celebrities pass away, when certain celebrities pass away, it triggers the emotions of people who have never met the celebrity. I remember Chadwick Boseman dying like that. That was like, dang, like that. It like I never knew the man, never met the man, but like it's for some reason like it triggered me. It triggered me emotionally when Paul Walker from Fast and Furious died. Never met the man, but like I loved him as an actor. I love Chadwick Boseman as an actor. So when both those guys died, like it triggered me emotionally. Recently, gospel singer Mandisa passed away. And when I heard that she passed away, it triggered me emotionally. Again, I don't know these people. I didn't cry, but it was like, dang, like, I can't explain why I feel the way I feel. So for me if I hear that a family member that I haven't talked to in years, or somebody that I knew from where I grew up, where I was friends with them, or I was cool with them, or I always knew them to be a good person. Like if I heard that they passed away, now, and even though I haven't talked to them in years, like it would still bother me. It would still trigger me. Like it would still do something to me, so we have to stop this notion that just because you haven't talked to somebody that you can't miss them, or just because you haven't talked to them that you can't go to their funeral, or just because you didn't quote unquote see the love doesn't mean they can't miss you. Again, it goes two ways, because as much as we say, well, I haven't heard from this person. When was the last time you checked on that person? It goes both ways. So, and I'm saying that for me too. There's people, I check on a lot of people, and then there's some people I don't check on. I don't. It doesn't mean that I dislike them. It doesn't mean that I don't love them. It just means that maybe I don't check on them as often as I could, or as often as I should. But again, I don't love them any less. I still care. So, and let people grieve how they grieve. Just because you didn't see the love doesn't mean that the love wasn't there. Or just because you didn't see somebody's relationship doesn't mean that the relationship wasn't real. Just because somebody doesn't post a Facebook photo about a friendship or a Facebook photo about a relationship doesn't mean that it wasn't authentic. I haven't taken pictures with many of my friends in years, but the relationship that we have is solidified through when we see each other. It's solidified through our phone calls. It's solidified through our text messages. Like we still have that bond. We still have that friendship. We still have those relationships. So we can't go based off of what we see on social media. And if we're so easily triggered by those things, like we might need to just take a step back and reflect. Like, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel angry towards people saying this? Why do I feel bitter towards people saying this? Why does it bother me when I feel like I have no support? What is going on to make me feel these different things with these different emotions? We gotta let go. and stop having, in some regards, we have to stop having such high expectations of people. But in other regards, we have to stop telling other people how to process grief, how to process pain, how to process emotion. Because at the end of the day, like that's toxic to me personally. That's toxic. So, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I see differently. I think for me, like those are the main things. Let people grieve how they grieve. It doesn't matter how close you knew them to be to that person. It doesn't matter how not close that they were when that person passed away. Or don't have the mindset, if you don't love me when I'm here, then don't, excuse me, if you didn't love me when I'm here, don't miss me when I'm gone. I'm sure that there are plenty of people who love me who I don't talk to often, or who I may not have talked to in years. But whenever my time is, listen, celebrate my life. Tell people about, the good times that we had. Share all those great memories that you had with me. I would love, for people to hear about all the great stuff or the great memories that they had with me. So again, we got to let go of I don't want to say foolishness, but just let go of whatever is causing us to be bitter or angry or disappointed or upset or whatever emotions that we're carrying or that we're feeling that weigh us down. I think we hold on to far too much or far more than we should, when we should just be letting stuff go. But we're human. We live and grow every day. So the hope, the prayer is that we continue to grow. The hope, the prayer is that we continue to learn and just become better people, become better all around people, and be better than who we were yesterday. I always say I'm not better than anybody else. I'm just striving to be better than who I was yesterday. I'm trying to be better than who I was this morning. And sometimes, that requires like, let me take a step back and reflect on myself. Let me take a step back. Like, should I have said this? Should I have said that? Or just processing my emotions with people whose opinion I value. If the people that you talk to agree with everything that you say, then that is an issue. Oftentimes I will talk to my wife about different things, and I know she don't agree with everything, but like just hearing her opinion on it or hearing it from a different perspective helps me. Or I'll talk to, one of my siblings about something just to get their perspective on something. I'll talk to people who I don't expect to agree with me just to hear different perspective. And if they do agree with me, it's like, okay, so I'm not wrong in this situation. But at the same time, you could always handle things. We can always handle things sometimes we can handle things in a better way. I shouldn't say always. Sometimes we can handle things in a better way, even if we believe we handled it good the first time. So, yeah. That's all I got for today. I hope I didn't offend nobody. I hope I didn't step on nobody. I'm sure I stepped on somebody's toes. I may have stepped on a few people's toes today. But my goal is to never offend anybody. Like I never want to purposely offend anybody. I just, in the same way I see it differently, I try to get other people to see it differently as well. So yeah, that's that. But anyway, I don't know why I just said that the way I did. It just popped out. Oh my gosh. But anyway, thank y'all for tuning in again. Thank y'all for listening to this episode. I think when I started this podcast, I was like, I'm not going to do seasons. I'm just going to record. But now I feel like I'm nearing the end of season 1. And I think I'm going to get to a point where I take a break, recalibrate, just refresh and just enjoy time without recording before I start, gearing up again to record for season 2. So, we shall see. We'll see what that looks like. I may or may not do that, but I think that's the way I'm leaning towards now. And for season 2, I definitely want to have more conversation and more dialogue with other people. So I'm looking forward to having some guests next season. I'm definitely looking forward to having some guests on the show. And maybe, I'm not going to say a new guest every episode, but I definitely want to have a few guests in the next season. I would love listen, I asked my wife if she would do the podcast with me, and she was like, no. I said, why? I said, I would love for you to be my first guest. And I understood her reasoning, but she used my podcast against me essentially, and essentially said that sometimes how I record a podcast and then never release it. She said that she would need to do that, that she would need to record a few times before she's comfortable, and then me release an episode. So hopefully one day I can get her on the episode. Hopefully we shall see. But yeah, I definitely I want to get my sister Michelle on the episode. I want to get my sister Aurelia on the episode. And I'm open to having, I'm not gonna say whoever. I'm definitely open to having people on the podcast, but at the same time, like, I can't just have anybody on the podcast, if that makes sense. Just because it's like, I don't want to say I pride myself, but the heart of a lion. I talk about me sharing my heart, but also sharing what I believe that the Father, what I believe the heart of the Father is concerning certain topics. If I feel like certain things go against the heart of the Father, or if I believe that God is just like, no, don't have this person on your podcast, then I just can't do it. That discernment is key. That discernment is definitely key for me. So as much as I would love to have everybody, I can't just have anybody. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I'm just rambling at this point. Thank you all for tuning in again to this episode. I appreciate y'all. Again, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the follow or the subscribe button from wherever you're listening to the podcast. Like the page or follow the page on Instagram, follow the page on Facebook, share the podcast with your friends. Comment, send me questions. I would love to answer questions on a future episode. So whatever you got, just send it my way. All right, y'all. Until next time.